What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sales Remastered. My name is Daniel. I'm your host, and I'm just coming from the gym. I'm ecstatic because I'm getting back to the gym. But in this episode, I'm going to share, first off, I'm going to start off by sharing a real dope quote. I shared the quote yesterday in my upload on my video. You got to check that out. That one's fire, by the way. It is meant for the millennials and Generation Z, but even if you're my age, and I'm one of the absolute original. I was born in the late '80s, so I'm one of the absolute original millennials. And I basically made a video, hopefully giving the younger generation a 10-year snapshot to the future. But in this episode, I'm gonna talk about a quote that I came across the last weekend, and the quote goes, "Your mind arrives at the destination before you do." Man, Man, like that quote is so strong. It's dope, and I can completely relate to that on so many different levels with so many experiences. But because my audience here at Sales Remastered is mainly tailored towards sales, I'm gonna share with you through personal experience and bring you down a trip down memory lane of how I can actually apply this quote and apply this saying, okay? So, and I remember it so clearly, it's like it was yesterday. Time really does fly. Check out that last video and let me know, comment, like, share this video. Let me know what your feedback is and what your input is at the end of the video after I cover the story. But I want to bring you back down memory lane. And I was around 22, 23 years old at the time. Real youngster, right? Let's put it this way, my head was still shaved. And I just got promoted to a loan officer. And mind you, I would say at least a year and a half before that, I was about to get arrested. I was actually en route to get shipped out for the military because I had nothing going on with my life. I literally had nothing going on. I burned every bridge that I ever created as far as friendship goes. About 98% of the family relationships that I had, I burned a bridge with because I was just a knucklehead. I was lost. I was just on this wrong path. And so, if you want to hear more about the story, check out the content on YouTube. There's just a plethora of different videos that gives you my history. But in this episode, I want to share with you how that quote relates to me. So at the ripe age of 22, 23 years old, I'm working at a mortgage company. And this mortgage company is called Town & Country Credit. It's in the city of Orange, California, right in the parking lot of the block of Orange, in case you're familiar with the area. And I remember we used to look out and you could be able to see the AMC theater. But anyway, a subprime company, the second largest subprime lender. In case you don't know what subprime is basically those below average credit scores, the non-income qualified bars. This was the subprime lender. High interest rates, adjustable rates, 3-year prepayment penalties, way before Dodd-Frank came in and way before a lot of the litigation that currently regulates the lending laws and habits right now were in place. It was Wild West. and at the time, AmeriQuest was one of the major players. Anyways, long story short is, we had a fire drill, right? And fire drill is it's a practice fire drill where everyone gets in line and then they go outside in the parking lot, right? And you do is check-in. You probably do at least once a year in your building if you work in a corporate building or whatever type building that has a fire alarm system to stick up the code. And so this happens, and that location in Orange was considered our corporate office. And so our corporate office was basically the centralized location to the entire nation. And man, AmeriQuest was big. Town & Country Credit being a subsidiary, we had literally branches everywhere. I mean, we had damn near 3 branches just within that county alone, within a 5-10 mile radius. And so at the time, when we all go out and line up, it's a hot day, and I'm still brand new to being a loan officer. Like, I just got promoted from telemarketer. I just canceled my plan on getting shipped out to boot camp because I was actually making good money at, getting into a base salary of a loan officer at the time. It was $28,000 a year. That was the most I've ever made in my life, and I thought I was doing big things, because prior to that I was making like $5 an hour minimum wage. And so yeah, I got this base, and I'm like, cool, and at the time I'm about 3 months away from having my first child, and so I'm trying to get my head straight, I'm trying to get it right. All I know is that I just got a pay increase. All I know is that I'm moving in the right direction, but I did not know where I was going. I did not have any idea that I'd be as great as I'd become in sales. Like I was good, I had the gift of gab. I was able to talk to people over the phone. I was able to generate trust, but I didn't necessarily know how to close people. And so, long story short, is one of the area managers who's in charge of one of the teams were visiting that corporate location. He was the branch manager of a Brea location, not too far, probably about 10 miles away. And his name was Edgar David. Shout out to you, Edgar David. If you're watching this, man, you have no idea how much you changed my life. And Edgar and I, we used to hang out. There's a little phase in my life where I ran with a fraternity. And the fraternity was underground, and it was out at Cal State Fullerton. I never even went to Cal State Fullerton. I went to Cypress Community College, and damn near barely went there. But I mainly hung out and just went to a few of the classes and try to do something in my life. Again, trying to be on the up and up. And this was probably about 3 years prior. And I was trying to do something right, but I kept hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I ended up going through this dark hole. And ultimately trying to fix my life, I went into mortgage. Anyways. Last time I saw Edgar was about 3 years ago. So last time I saw him, he was like, yo, D, man, I remember you used to be bald headed, used to have the hoop earrings, used to be spitting freestyles, because I used to flow, I used to rhyme. And that was my thing. Like I loved coming up with words right off the top of your head and make them rhyme on beat. And I just loved it. I loved the pressure. I loved the kind of just the creativity. And I used to do it for days and days and days. And I was just, a hip hop head. And so he said, yo, man, do you still flow? You still rap? And as he's asking these questions, I'm like, nah, man, I don't do that anymore. I used to, but, I was kind of laying low, and I completely changed my ways by that time that I saw him again. And so, essentially what I wanted to tell him was I'm just trying to figure it out. And the reason why I was trying to tell him that is because as I'm looking at him, this guy's probably maybe a year older than me, but this dude was doing it. Like he was, we're young, and he's the branch manager of a Brea location. Brea happens to be the top producing branch in California. And this is one of my original mentors, Edgar David. And even though he was only like a year older than me, he was just so advanced in terms of maturity and business sense. Like he had his shit going on, and he was doing it, man. Like I remember his numbers, and I see his numbers, because they give shout out on the branches, and you get to see where everyone's at. And I was part of a corporate team that we weren't near our prospects. We were doing it all over the phone. And again, I'm just probably within the first 3 to 6 months of starting this job, and then I see Edgar, and he's just doing it big. So he's decked out, like pimped the fuck out. Like his clothes are top name brand, very sharp, very clean cut. You could just sense money. And so we started chit chatting and started reminiscing. Like, yeah, man, you still kick it with them? You still blah blah blah. And I didn't tell him at the time, like, nah, man, I don't kick back with anybody. I burn bridges with everybody. Anyone that had respect for me, I literally, like I was just a knucklehead. I didn't give a fuck about anyone but myself at the time. And I was just lost. I was just kind of mad at the world. Certain things happen. Again, go check out the videos on YouTube to get more of the backstory. But long story short is when I looked at him, I was like, dude, if this guy could do it, right? And even though he went to college, like he was telling me, he's like, hey, man, you don't need an educational to be good in mortgage or be good in sales. All you need to do is just have common logic. And so for the next 3 to 6 months, like I kind of, stayed in communication with him. He was in a different branch, and I was still kind of new at the game. He was a manager, he's on the upper level. So I felt kind of intimidated, like, oh man, I know you're busy, blah, blah, blah. But this dude like always made time to like shoot me over, a couple insights and some tips, and connected me and helped me network with some of the top producers. He was just like that, he's like, hey man, got to go talk to my boy, his name's Terrence, or go talk to my boy, his name's Francis, and he'll show you how to do this, and he'll show you how to do that. He's just always making moves, and I appreciate that. So the reason why I'm even sharing this story with you is because at the time I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know that I could basically achieve what he achieved from a manager status. I didn't know that at some point, someday, I'd be doing what he did, because at the time that I looked at it, I was like, man, dude, man, I hope, everything was a hope. Everything was, man, I wish I can get to that level. And ultimately what happened was in order for me to reach that level, I had to walk, talk, and act like the image that was already at that level. And so ultimately what Edgar didn't know was he gave me an example of what to do, how to look, and how to conduct yourself and carry yourself to be in that position. So he was ultimately kind of like my cookie cutter shape. Like anytime I thought of doing something towards that direction or getting towards that level, I would think like, well, what would Edgar do? You know, what would he do? How would he go about it? And came so long that after a few months or 3 months of trying to do it, you naturally start doing it, right? And so you're no longer saying like, oh, well, what would Edgar do? Well, you know, how would Edgar achieve this, or whoever the influence is in your life? You know, how would they do this, or how would he or she do this? And it gets to a point where you just start doing it. And what happens is since your mindset is already at the destination, meaning you already envision yourself in that on that level. You're literally acting and talking and walking the part. You're basically, you have the swagger of a six-figure earner at only, even though you're earning $28,000 per year, right? Like, but if you would have seen me and you didn't know what my salary was, you could have sworn I was making as much as Edgar. And it's because of my ability to adapt. And I learned this on the street. Like you had to adapt in order to survive. You had to, immediately kind of congregate and join forces and then act like that force, right? So this was gangs, these were street gangs, or this was a neighborhood clique. And so in order to survive, in order to have people to get your back, you needed to quickly adapt to that clique. You needed to adapt to that gang. And now that gang is ultimately what you exude through your body language, through the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you act. And essentially everyone on the outside sees you as part of that gang because you already kind of exude that through your presence or that clique or whatever. In this case, it can even be a fraternity. It's just the adaptation that ultimately puts you into that group. So my punchline here is that, when you get to, like right now, you may not necessarily know that you're going to meet a certain person that's just going to change the trajectory of your life. But when that time comes, recognize it and don't be afraid to pursue it. And the reason why I would say I really pursued it was because Edgar was so close to my age, and I felt the common bond. Like I knew him, like we were in the corporate area, and he's Filipino too, he's young. Like we were both kind of hip hop heads. We both kind of somewhat hanged out with the same cliques, not in the same clique, but our cliques knew each other. And he was doing it. Like he was a clear example. And I was just, in essence, mad at myself. Like, fuck, man, how come I couldn't have, kept my head straight and maybe I'd be at the level that he's at right now. How come I didn't do that? So somewhat of a grapple, but then immediately got over it and said, fuck it, I'm gonna do this shit too. This guy could do it, I'm gonna fucking do it too. Watch me. It was almost like that challenge, like a challenge. And so my punchline again is that when that time comes, and you're not gonna know, you'll have no idea, but there will be something within your, like an instinct, a gut instinct, that's gonna tell you like, hey man, this is it. And you'll know because you are going to be so obsessive over it. All you're going to do is just literally wake up, think, and nonstop until you go to bed. And even while you're laying in bed, you're going to be obsessed with a thought like, how do I get there? How do I do this? How do I do that? What am I going to do to get me closer to that level? And it becomes an obsession until that obsession turns itself into reality. But the only way it's going to turn into reality is your mindset needs to arrive to the destination before you do. So you need to make up your mind. You need to mentally live in that state in order for you to arrive to that state, right? And so if your mindset is negative, you are always going to be in a negative state. Your actions are going to reflect negativity. But if your mindset is on a higher level, a more positive and advanced level, and you are constantly in that mindset state, then your mindset will naturally change and reconform all of your actions, your attitude, to adapt and match that mindset. And what happens when when this takes place is you start gravitating. This is how the law of attraction works. You start gravitating towards that destination because naturally you're already on that trajectory, right? You're on that path. It's like your senses are on that GPS, right? And that GPS is set at that location. You don't even need to type that bitch in because you could already see it. And that's exactly what happened to me. But Edgar was my GPS. I was like, dude, this dude can make it, man. Watch, I'm gonna do it too. And sure enough, I was able to do it. And Edgar taught me so many different lessons. Again, he's one of my original mentors that I've ever had in my life. That was a positive mentor. I had a gang of negative mentors. I had very bad examples that I thought were the coolest. I thought were the best. And at the time was cool because rap music, I blame rap music. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, I'm going to share with you on my next video after I get dressed up and get all suited and booted on what the next lesson that I learned from Edgar was. And that lesson in itself changed the whole platform. It changed the whole game with regards to selling. And I'm going to show you how, you know, how I originally was doing the sales and then ultimately what I learned that I made an adjustment. And it wasn't verbatim or anything. It was just the philosophy. It was the concept. And it made a huge, dramatic change, not only my income, but my momentum, my confidence, my morale. And ultimately what it led me to do was become the top producer of that national size company. And so of all, like, there had to be 1,000 loan officers, probably maybe even 1,100, 1,200, because at the time you didn't need a license. You know, everyone was a fucking loan officer. Out of 1,200 loan officers, out of like a gajillion branches all throughout the US, literally we licensed every state because again, you didn't need licenses. So we had every single state just hemmed up, and I became the absolute top producer across that entire country for 1 month. And I outdid everyone's loan volume and funded units. And I would say a lot of credit for that goes to the concept that I learned, and I'm gonna share with you on our next video. So, you know, I know that was a long drawn out story, but I really wanted to take you down memory lane while at the same time practice my storytelling skills. So, you know, let me know your feedback on the story, if it made sense, if you got lost. You know, I don't get offended for any comments or any critiquing. I genuinely appreciate it because you're just helping me get better. That, and I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck of any negative. That shit don't bother me. I'm gonna keep doing me, and I'm gonna practice, and I'm gonna get better for my audience, and I'm gonna get better for you, and I'm gonna continue striving. I'm gonna continue practicing because mentally I'm already there, pimping. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.